Hello and welcome to Rob's Retro Reviews, where today I figured I'd do a little bit of a game room update because I've made quite a few changes to it recently and I kinda want to just show it off. So, let's get started. So the first thing you see when you walk into the game room is this game shelf. There's two black shelves from IKEA. I think they're called Billy bookcases. But yeah, we got them in black, kind of just to match the decor of the room. On the game shelf, going from the top to the bottom, we've got the PlayStation section at the top, because that's my favourite console. So that ranges from PS1 games, PS2, PSP, PS3 and PS4. Then the Nintendo section starts, where I've got my incredibly small collection of NES games, N64 games and GameCube games. Then we move on to DS, Wii, 3DS, Wii U and Switch, and that completes the Nintendo section. And then finally at the bottom, my least favourite console, is the original Xbox, Xbox 360 and Xbox One. Then finally at the very bottom, there's the PC section. Don't really tend to play PC games anymore, so that's why that's at the very last bit. Also on the game shelf, there's quite a few like figures and toys and stuff like that. What I've tried to do with these is I've tried to sort of put them where they make sense. So for example, the Crash Bandicoot pop figure is next to the original Crash Bandicoot games. But for some of them I can't really do that because I've got quite a lot of Yoshi toys. So they're kind of just dotted around all over the shelf, to be honest, even where it doesn't make sense. But yeah, I have sort of tried to make them make sense at least. For example, with the Kirby toy, he's in the Nintendo section, so he makes sense where he's placed. But yeah, I've tried to have a bit of a structure with it. Now, I by no means have the biggest game collection in the world, because I don't really consider myself to be a game collector, believe it or not. I'm also just get the games that I'm actually playing, and then I just happen to keep those games and display them. Whereas like I feel like a game collector kind of just collects games for the sake of it and doesn't necessarily play them or even like them. So I wouldn't really say that I'm that kind of collector. But I've amassed a bit of a collection through the years. So I guess I'll go through some of my favourites for some of the systems that I've got. So I guess starting with the PS1 section really. Some of my favourite games on the system has got to be obviously the classics, Crash Bandicoot. I've got all 5 of the Crash PS1 games, starting with the original Crash Bandicoot. Some of them are Platinum versions, like this one. But again, I'm not really a game collector, so I don't really care about having Platinum games in my collection. Like some people would find that off-putting, but I don't really mind it, to be honest. In terms of rare games in my collection, I don't really have that many, just because I find that I don't really want to be spending like upwards of £100 just to get a rare game in my collection when I'm not necessarily that big of a fan of it. Like, I mean, a game I've wanted for a while now is Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but that can sell for upwards of £200, and I'm just not really willing to spend that much money on it. But having said that, one rare game that I do have in my collection that I got when it initially came out, so it wasn't even expensive, is Tombi for the PS1. So in America this is called Tomba, or Toomba, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. But yeah, this is a pretty decent condition case for Tombi. Everything works in there and everything, and it's complete with the manual. It's also an incredible game, really, really good. It's kind of a shame that this is so rare, because I wish more people could get their hands on it, to be honest, because it really is good. I never played the sequel to this, and I've heard good things about that, so maybe one day I'll find that for a good price. But yeah, I guess I'll stop talking about some of the older games now, because otherwise we'll be here all day and I want to keep the video length relatively short, and also I want to talk about the rest of the room. So we'll just move on to something a little bit newer, and then I'll stop talking about the games. So recently I've been getting quite a lot of Switch games, and I've got a few that I want to talk about just because they're really good, for a lot of different reasons really. So first of all, there's Overcooked and Overcooked 2, which are some of the best co-op games I've ever played. They're really simple in concept. You're basically chefs and you have to complete different dishes as fast as possible, getting them out in the right order and that sort of thing. But what's simple in concept is made more complicated as the levels go on by different gimmicks and stuff, and it becomes quite hectic and challenging, especially later on. The final game that I'll point out isn't really a rare one or anything, but it's one that I really like. It's obviously Super Mario Odyssey. It's a must-have title for the Switch, and I'm sure everybody at this point has pretty much played it that owns that console, but it's probably the best 3D platformer that I've ever played, and I really wasn't expecting that. I'm not a huge fan of Mario games, but this one really did blow me away. If you have a Switch and haven't played this, you really do need to pick it up. By the way, if you're interested in seeing a list of my complete collection of consoles and games, then I'll put a link in the description below to a blog article that I wrote a while ago and that I keep updated that just lists everything in my collection. So this corner of the room is my sort of workstation area where I've got 2 monitors set up, I've got my computer and speakers all plugged in. This is where I do my editing and where I just look at YouTube to comment back to people and stuff like that. It's basically where I do all the YouTube related stuff like editing and making the thumbnails and everything like that. So this is sort of like the office area of the room, I suppose. Up there you can see that we've got a Spyro Reignited Trilogy poster which we got recently for the room. It's pretty good. It's like sort of more stylised than some of the other posters that I've got in the room, because it's like actually, well, it looks to be hand drawn. So this area of the room is really where the most changes have happened recently. I'll put in some clips of what this side of the room used to look like so you can use that as a comparison. But basically we used to have a CRT TV in the corner, but that broke recently, so that's basically what made us decide to do up the game room like this. The only disadvantage of no longer having a CRT TV is really the fact that we can't play light gun games anymore, and I'm a big fan of those. But that's potentially something that will get added to the game room at a later date, like maybe I'll get a small CRT TV and put it somewhere. But that's going to be added at a later date maybe, if I can find one for a good price. But yeah, the major new addition to the room is the fact that we've now got this 55-inch Samsung TV. Before we didn't have a TV in the room and I was just using one of my PC monitors to play games, or alternatively the CRT TV if it was a retro game. Another thing that we've added is obviously the TV stand. You need a TV stand if you've got a TV. So on the TV stand we've got quite a few consoles that are for the most part all actually plugged in as well, which is good. So we've got the PS2, PS3, 2 PS4s, a NES, a GameCube, the Wii U and the Switch, which I would say are all of the consoles that I use on a regular basis, especially with the PS2, PS3 and PS4 and Switch. They're the ones that I tend to use like at least weekly really. So yeah, all of those are plugged into a HDMI splitter which go into the capture card and into the TV. So everything's pretty much all set up and ready to go. We don't need to be unplugging wires and stuff. If you want to know more about the way that I've got the TV set up and the way that I capture games, I'm going to be doing a follow-up video to this where I talk about my game recording setup, where I go into how I've got the consoles hooked up to record gameplay, what my PC specs are, what I use to edit, what the camera is that's currently recording this is, and stuff like that. But yeah, for those of you that are wondering why we've got 2 PS4s, it's because one of them is my girlfriend's and one of them is mine, and sometimes we like to play the same games on multiplayer. So for example, we've got 2 copies of Monster Hunter World, 2 copies of Doom and that sort of thing, because we like to play those sorts of games online together, so we need 2 consoles to do that. One of the last areas of the room that I want to show off is this brand new area here where we've put 2 of these black shelves, again from IKEA. Not entirely sure what these ones are called though, but I'm sure you'll easily be able to find them if you're looking for them. But yeah, basically the way that we had this set out before is that these 2 black shelves were on each side of the chimney breast in the room. But since we've now got the TV there and the desk is in a different place, we've had to move these shelves. So this is more of a sort of like just general display cabinet now. It's got some toys and figures on the top there. We've got Alf from the Oddworld games. We've got the Devil from Cuphead and some Sonic merchandise. There's a record player here, which is a little bit random, but we kind of don't have anywhere else to put it, so why not put it there? And then we've got different gaming merchandise and peripherals and that sort of thing, all displayed in the cabinet. We've got the PlayStation Classic, we've got a PS1 console, a PS2 Slim, the Nintendo mini consoles, different 3DSs, and right at the bottom there is the collection of Game Boy consoles and also a DS. And also down there with those consoles are the unboxed Game Boy and DS games that I own. I don't really know how to display those in a way where it looks really good, so I've kind of just put them there for now. If anybody's got any ideas as to how to display Game Boy games in a way that actually looks good, let me know, because I've always struggled to do that. But for now I think they look pretty good where they are. On the other cabinet we've got the PSVR headset, which I use quite frequently with the Move controllers in there as well. We've got the N64 and Xbox consoles that I very rarely use. I do want to start using the N64 a little bit more, but because I don't have any games for it at the moment, besides Super Mario 64 and a rubbish football game, there's not really any reason to have the N64 plugged in. And at the very bottom of this second cabinet we've got different game books, so that's like game magazines, art books, and that sort of thing. One of my favourite game books down there is the Oddworld art book, which is actually quite rare and expensive nowadays, so I'm really glad to have that in my collection because it's awesome. I've also got another poster over here, and this time it's for a more modern game, being Cuphead. I only recently got into Cuphead when it released on the Switch, but it's quickly become one of my favourite games, I would say. I mean, I've not played it like that much yet, with it only just having come out, but it's really good. I'm really enjoying it, so I wanted a poster of that for sure. And this is the area of the room that you'll probably recognise if you watch some of my other videos, because this is the sofa that I sit on where I record my reviews. Before, with this sofa, it was kind of more so just here for show, because I never really actually casually played games in this room. But now we've got the TV that's right across from the sofa. It's just a lot more functional and actually works as a proper game room, rather than just a sort of office as it was before. So before, really the only consoles that we had up here were the consoles that I was using to record at the time, but now this is a proper games room. It actually has all of our games consoles, for the most part anyway, up here ready to actually play. So now whenever me or my girlfriend or both of us are playing games, we're going to be doing it up here. Whereas before we were playing them in the living room whenever we were casually playing stuff. So now I think this room's just a lot better because it serves the dual purpose of actually playing games for fun and doing the recording, and I think it just works a hell of a lot better than it used to. The only console that we don't have in this room that we own is the Xbox One, and the reason that that isn't in this room is because number one, it wouldn't get played, and number two, we need a DVD and Blu-ray player downstairs, so we're kind of just using the Xbox One for that. I've already mentioned the Cuphead poster and the Spyro poster, but there are a couple of other posters in the room that I haven't mentioned, one being the Legend of Zelda poster that's right behind me, and the other one being a Crash Bandicoot poster that's just above the TV. So the room's looking pretty full and pretty swanky at the moment, to be honest. There's also a side table next to me where we can put drinks, and there's also a Pip-Boy on there that came with the Fallout 4 limited edition. I'm pretty happy to have the Pip-Boy, to be honest, even though it is a little bit plasticky and quite expensive for what it is, to be honest. But I'm a fan of Fallout generally. Not so much a fan of Fallout 4 or 76, but Fallout 3 and New Vegas especially I'm quite a big fan of, so I'm glad to have the Pip-Boy from that, really. On the side table we also have a couple of PS4 controllers that are docked into a charger, just because we use the PS4 quite a lot, so it makes sense to have the controllers easily accessible over there. The very last area of the room that I've got to show off is this little cupboard in the corner that's actually a lot bigger than it initially would look. So in here, this is where I keep all of my camera equipment, some miscellaneous bags that are used for storing like games consoles and that sort of thing for transportation. There's microphones, a guitar case, a weird little fluffy beanbag thing that comes in handy when people come over and they don't have anywhere to sit. There's this wooden table here that we use when we do streams, so we put the laptop on this little table so that we can read the chat while the PC does the actual streaming work. The reason we do that is because obviously when we're sat on the sofa streaming, we can't see the PC from all the way at the other side of the room. So we have to use a laptop so we can actually see what's going on with the stream. Also in here is a box that's absolutely filled with different wires for all of the consoles that I've got, controllers and peripherals, that sort of thing. It's absolutely full. It can't even fit anything else in it, I think. We've also got the shelf in here, which we've recently tidied up a bit, and that has all of the controllers on it that we actually frequently use. So there's all of the PlayStation controllers, all the Nintendo controllers, and a couple of Xbox controllers too, just in case we ever need them. But they're all easily accessible, so we can just open the doors, reach in, grab the controller, and get on with it. But yeah, that pretty much sums up what's going on with the game room at the moment. As you can see, I've made quite a lot of changes to it, and I'm actually really happy with it. There's some stuff that I've not even mentioned, like the fact that we've got a new rug in here that really completes the room, and also there's all of the boxes on top of the shelves that I've not talked about. But that's just stuff like, again, peripherals, console boxes, and different bits of merchandise that I've collected over the years and I've just wanted to keep the box for. But yeah, like I said before, if you're interested in looking at a list of all of my consoles and games, then I'll leave a link to that below in the description. And also, I'm going to be making a video about my game recording setup where I go through how I've got everything hooked up and what equipment I use to make videos. So if you want to see that, then maybe subscribe and you'll get notified when that goes live. But for now, that's the game room tour done. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye!